Alrighty, welcome back, folks, to Zupi, the Autotelic Mindset Podcast. Here with Lisa DeJong, Canadian 2022 Beijing Paralympic silver medalist in the sport of snowboarding. But more importantly, she is a mother of two young ones, right? Two little ones.
Yeah,
Two
yeah, a
little
5 and a
ones.
7-year-old.
And a wife. And I think it's important to bring that up to light because I think with these Olympian athletes, sometimes the sport can overshadow, those who are parents because that's, I think, a sport in itself, if you may. So we're going to get into that and how you balance being a high performance athlete with a family life, with a social life, and we're going to bring it all together. So I'm excited to have you on board, and I can't wait to get it going. So yeah, let's just, from what I see here, like it seems you were, as soon as you could walk and talk, you were right into the outdoor skiing, snowboarding. So walk us through a little bit of the early years of your childhood with regards to obviously you had a surgery
Yeah,
and how that evolved into dealing with some obstacles and then getting into the sport of snowboarding.
yeah, for sure. So when I was born, I was missing growth plates and an ankle joint in my left leg, which wasn't really discovered until I was close to 3. So my parents made the decision to amputate my left foot. I was the youngest of 4, so I just kind of had to do whatever all the other kids were doing. So we were a ski family, grew up on a ski hill. So when I was 3, as soon as I could be fitted with a leg, I was thrown on skis, and I loved being out there. Small town Saskatchewan. It was a really small hill, and one day I saw someone snowboarding, and it just blew my mind. I thought that is the coolest thing. I'm going to do that. So I went and rented a snowboard and strapped it on, and it was not as easy as this guy made it look that I had seen going down the hill. But I was determined. So I practiced and I took lots of lessons, and it took me a little while to get going, to get the balance down. And then after that, I was gone. I was surpassing my friends, and I was out there every weekend. I did my instructor's course when I was 16 and taught the younger kids at the hill. And it kind of just went through there. And I always carried the snowboarding on. It was just such a sense of freedom getting on the board and just being one with it and riding down the hill.
That's awesome. I find the more I talk to Paralympians and kind of hear more stories, I feel like you guys are a special bunch where you kind of own, your being a Paralympian. You own what has happened or what has the universe has presented to you with being an amputee, and you guys really own it. As athletes, I find it's not so much a hindering stigma um, as some might think it would be. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, but I find learning and talking to the Paralympians, it's just who they are and it's part of them. And I admire that about them. And it's nothing holds you guys back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it seems like this snowboarding was ingrained in you. Was there any other sports that you played growing up as well? Obviously, snowboarding be a winter sport. Anything in the summer that you were involved in as well?
Not really any official sports. I've always loved horseback riding. So in the summer, I just like to escape into nature, whether it's hiking or riding horses out in the forest, out in the quiet. Anything active, I'm up to go do.
That's exciting. So you just like the outdoors is kind of the name of the game for you. It seems like.
Yeah.
So with regards to snowboarding and and being a Paralympian, so I know Olympian, every sport is different with regards to the qualification process, which is why I always ask because people just are usually not familiar with how you actually qualify for these events. So maybe let us know how, for snowboarding, how it is you guys qualify to make the Olympic Games.
For sure. Yeah, you're right. So every team is different on how it's done. For us, it's based off the World Cups for the season and the season before where your results are, but then ultimately it's up to the board of Canada Snowboard, the coaches, the high performance managers to decide if you're going to make the Paralympic team. They'll kind of go off where your results are, but also where your drive is and where they see your potential coming from, where kind of your curve is going, and they'll base it off that as well.
Okay. And then also I'm like still learning too with regards to there's different categories. You had like a slalom. There's another one you do as well.
Yeah, so we have two categories. We have snowboard cross and we
Okay.
have bank slalom.
Okay, and maybe run me through what the difference is and how each kind of work.
For sure. So the bank slalom course is kind of what it sounds like. It's a slalom going down at high speed. All the turns are banked, so you're actually using that G-force to stay up on the turns as you're going around. And that's always run individually, or it will be run. They'll build two twin courses, and you'll run down two at a time, but you're on your separate course. So it's more of an individual one, where the snowboard cross is four athletes across, going down the hill, going around berms, going over jumps, trying not to run into each other, trying to cross the finish line first.
And
So
which
that one's by far my favorite. It's the
I was,
most exciting one to do.
I was just gonna ask which one is kind of your favorite. That one seems pretty intense. It's nice to go to an event though to kind of have both, I would say, just to
Yeah.
have a little bit of balance there. So that sounds I like the sounds of the second one, just a little more gritty and a little more intense, I guess you would say, with regard
Yeah.
to having the other competitors around you there. Um, that sounds like, yeah, sounds a lot of fun. As a kid, I grew up just in the Durham region here in Ontario, and I can't say we had any kind of hills like you guys have out there. So
Yeah.
my skiing and snowboarding career was very short-lived, per se. Uh, but yeah, so going into like I was saying to the audience and people who are gonna be listening here, like high performance athletes, we always hear the saying, eat, sleep, and train, which I'm sure you can attest to.
Yeah.
Throw in a family life of two kids.
Yeah.
How do you manage that and keep everything balanced and you're focused when it needs to be at home, when it needs to be out on the course, and
Yeah.
everything in between that. How do you keep that in check and in line that you're the best athlete and the best mom possible?
Right. Well, I think everyone has a different approach to that. Everyone's more comfortable with their balance board looking a different way. And for me, I've had the most success with if I'm away training and competing, I really need to get into that mindset. And my board is really going to be leaning that way while I'm away. And Zoom has really been a game changer. Being able to talk to my family, my kids, my friends while I'm away gives me that little bit of balance back into the family side of things. But I find it's kind of the opposite then. When I go back home from training, I'm really focusing on my family, and I'll just block out sport for a while. When I don't have to be away training, I'm like, nope, this is what's important now, and I'm just in the moment with the family, and that really has been working well for me these past few seasons.
And what's kind of your like mental check to make sure you're checking out of one area and checking into the other, because they can at times maybe tend to seep in unexpectedly.
Yeah, for sure it can. And I think the biggest mental check is when I feel that anxiety creeping in. For me, that's like, okay, something needs to change. The balance needs to come a little back to center. If I'm feeling off, I need to recheck and figure out what I'm going to do to balance myself again.
And I kind of like what you said here, like you can, if things are tipping, like the anxieties and stuff are coming in, that's kind of your mental note that, okay, let's figure out what's happening, what's going on, let's kind of recenter. Whereas you can find a lot of, especially high performance athletes, entrepreneurs, whatever it may be, that they get so sucked into that area. And like you said, kind of just starts to tip and almost, and eventually tips over where they have
Yeah.
not corrected it. And that's where, you start seeing success, and then the decline starts to happen. You wonder what went wrong.
Right.
So I find, like what you're saying, it's very important to see what the tipping point is and making sure we don't go past the tipping point to get us back in line into the balancing off your board again. So I agree with what you're saying, and very easier said than done, especially as a parent. And I know the kids are probably grabbing at you, mommy, mommy, all the attention, especially being away for probably periods of time. So, yeah, very easier said than done, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and then outside of that, maybe what are some of your other hobbies while you're away from sport? Maybe you're interacting with the family and friends as a social so the social stuff part of your life.
I just love getting out and doing anything active. So I really try and bring that into raising my kids as well. So especially in the winter, I think it's really important to have outdoor activities that you love to do because we have cold winters here in Alberta. So you need to embrace that. So I get the kids out cross country skiing. My oldest has started snowboarding and skiing downhill. So that's really exciting. And I just like to get out on the motorcycle, on my pedal bike, run, hike, anything outside and active. That's what I'm all about. And that's what I kind of am forcing on my family too. So
That's awesome. I like what you say. You gotta embrace it. You know, some people might come down to your neck of the woods and be like, "Oh, this is too cold. I gotta stay inside." But I think, going through something like COVID, that being outdoors and just moving, however that may come for you, whether it's walking, like you said, maybe a dirt bike or motorcycle or hiking, whatever it may be, I think is very therapeutic for us as
oh yeah.
humans. And I think we learned that as time stands still a little bit, that we need more of this, and we're go 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 all the time. But sit back, get out, and just enjoy some of that fresh air is very important.
For sure. There's no such thing as bad weathers. There's just bad clothes.
I like it. I like it. And then I like what you said here with regards to like some of your strength training stuff. You hinted on like whether it's Zoom, I mean, social media. We get to interact with people that we maybe don't get to see regularly, or we get to communicate to bring them into our social circles. And I see you have here like doing your strength training. You bring the kids, and they're part of kind of your journey and what you're doing. So maybe talk me through a little bit of how that comes uh, as part of your family life.
Yeah, so that works really well. Canada Snowboard works really great with members to try and set them up for success with how much we have to travel and train for when we're home. So my strength and conditioning coach can do my sessions through Zoom, which is awesome. So it's one less thing I have to go away for. So I'm home and I can do them in my house. And yeah, my kids can be a part of it. And it's so great for them to see what I'm doing and to take part in it too. And it's just such a healthy thing to do as a family. And I love that I can incorporate the kids into that through Zoom and not have to be going away for my strength and conditioning training as well. So it's getting that done while having the family time. So that's a really great balance right there.
I love it because there's the kind of the crossover, but it's a healthy crossover where you have a little bit of your athlete and high performance stuff mixed with the family stuff, and together you get to kind of do it together as one. And I mean, as a mother, as an athlete, people are always looking up to you. So to have your kids involved, I mean, you're kind of guiding the way. Healthy lifestyle, just movement in general. Lots of good comes from observing, your role models doing what they love to do. So I hope people are inspired to have their kids join them or watch them while they're, maybe they're doing a fitness class, whatever it may be on Zoom, as we've kind of transitioned a little bit with regards to online content and doing stuff at home.
Absolutely.
So with regards to, I want to get into kind of the mental side of stuff. And I mean, obviously at a young age, there's probably a lot of obstacles and adversities you had to face. Maybe talk me back to when you were younger and how kids react. You're 3 years old when you had your surgery. How did kids react? How did you react? I'm sure it built in you unconsciously a natural resiliency to achieve your goals or overcome obstacles. So maybe walk me through the mental stuff, the emotional stuff as a young age and leading up to kind of now.
For sure. So Yeah, there was definitely obstacles when I was younger. A lot of people, especially if they didn't know me, just assumed that I couldn't do a lot of things. So I've always been really competitive even as a child, and that just gave me the drive to prove everyone wrong and to go out and yeah, do everything the best I can and just show them that I can do everything they can. And sometimes it looks a little bit different, but I can figure out a way to do a lot of things that people think I wouldn't be able to do.
And I think I watched a little bit of a clip with you and your coach, and he was saying like you guys are pretty much, you're on the snowboard, and I'm sure they get surprised with some of the things you guys can do just as well, if not better, than someone who is functioning all around, so to speak. I almost get a little bit intimidated sometimes that if I were to come out, you'd probably make me look really, really bad. Not that I'm good at snowboarding, but I'm sure in other in other things as well. I'm sure some people wouldn't even know the difference because of the capabilities you guys have or the underestimating of what you guys are capable of.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so I think, yeah, kudos to you guys, especially at a young age. It's so it's interesting to see some of the mental stuff that you guys probably don't know you're going through, but you are with overcoming some of these obstacles. And then now being where you are here, like, wow, this was meant to be. Struggles, the adversity, the hard work was meant to be because I'm here today. Do you ever go back and kind of reflect on some of those moments as a kid, teen, young adult, to where you are now?
Yeah, I do for sure. I think about that a lot when I'm having a rough day on the hill to think how far I've come and what I've done. And it's like, yeah, I can do this. I've struggled through a lot of things and I'm tough and I've made it this far and I can push through this too. It gives a lot of mental grit.
And from talking to you just briefly here, I can see you're very, I'd say the word's kind of focused on what you do, and obviously passion's a big part of that. But the one thing I was reading here is, especially as someone who's had a crucial surgery, the word that comes to mind, and you mentioned here in some of the notes I'm reading, is frustration. When people hear the word frustration, it's usually a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of bring light to it as you use it here. It's almost as if it's used as a driver, as a positive fuel for when you're competing, training. Maybe walk us through what that word means to you and how you use it to fuel yourself through everyday life, competition. Yeah, let me know a little bit about that.
Sure. So I guess just growing up, frustration is something you're going to come across when you're missing a leg. There's going to be frustrating things that happen. I mean, sometimes my foot would break. Sometimes I get a snowboard boot stuck on my leg. There's always things in everyday life that people wouldn't even think about if you're not missing a leg. So I've learned to just use it, yeah, as like, oh, this is a challenge. Okay, I'm gonna beat that challenge instead of looking at it as something knocking me down. It's nope, this is another thing that I'm gonna surpass and it's gonna make me stronger. And in looking at it that way, it's easier to have that positive mindset to drive forward instead of looking at it as a block. It's like, no, how am I going to get over that? And I'm going to be stronger when I get over that.
And and I find people frustration is a make or break for people. Either frustration, I'm quitting, or I'm frustrated, but I'm going to overcome it. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, reevaluating what a word means to you is very important to overcome these obstacles. And I find when you're frustrated, all it means is you're getting very close to achieving, that outcome, that goal. So if you just stick in there a little bit longer, good things are about to happen. But can you
Yeah.
make it past that little hump to get there? So I think for those who are listening, words are very important, how we use them and how we think about them, and the meaning we give to them mentally is very important to help us overcome some of these obstacles. So I just wanted to bring that word to light because you hear it all the time. I'm frustrated. I can't do this. I can't do that. Yada, yada, yada. But it's actually,
Yeah.
it can be such a positive experience once you overcome the little curveball at hand. I see you do a lot of prep with regards to the mental side of things and mental preparation through your sport, visualization. Maybe talk us through. I would like to ask the athlete, like pre-game or pre-run, what's your kind of routine? A lot of athletes say, oh, I don't have a routine, but I always say if you don't have a routine, it's a routine in itself to keep yourself relaxed and make sure no negative stresses or vibes get inside. So what's kind of your pre-game, pre-run routine that you maybe do to get yourself, we like to call in flow state or in the zone and ready to go?
Yeah, for sure. So for myself, I've realized that I often need to bring my energy up before getting into training or a race, especially in the morning, like before I'm actually in the gate ready to drop in. So I love to just blast whatever music I'm into at the time in my hotel room, have a dance party as I'm getting ready, and just it really pumps me up and makes me feel strong, and just really keeping that positive visualization of how I want the day to go. It's really easy to let things creep in, especially on whichever course. There's always parts that are giving me trouble, and it would be so easy to just on replay think about, oh, what if this happens? This is going to happen. This kept happening in practice. And to really be aware of that and be able to shut that off and just think, nope, it's going to be a good run. My body knows what to do. I'm as prepared as I can be. And I really focus on going through that run in my head, especially if I'm feeling worried or nervous about parts of it that weren't working out. I just switch the narrative and tell my brain, nope, we're thinking about how it is going to look, how the perfect run would look, how my body feels making the moves, how I'm supposed to make them. And that just flips the switch on having the confidence going in, thinking, okay, yeah, this is going to be good.
And while you're doing that, is it something you like you said, you like to get amped up kind of before the race?
Yeah.
But if these things start to seep in, is it like kind of take time to yourself and just kind of, close your eyes and get back focused? Or is it kind of walk and talk, these things are seeping in, but you're going through your daily stuff or your pregame stuff and just self-talk in your head? How do you kind of channel that? Or is it like a more quiet thing, or is it you're going and you're just correcting the self-talk that's
Right.
going on?
So it would depend on the situation. If it's just training, then probably just as I'm out and about, I just correct that self-talk. If it's a race, and if it's something that I'm really having a hard time harnessing, then that is, yeah, for sure, when I'll sit and actually give my full attention to that on changing my mindset.
So while you're in race, is it like, is there chatter in your head while you're racing? Or I mean, like you said, every race is a little bit different, but if things
Yeah.
are seeping or things are not going the way you want, is there self-talk while you're actually racing? Or when you're racing, you're just racing? How does that work with regards to your mindset and the mental side of things?
So definitely it's before. Like one of the most nerve-wracking parts is when you're in the gate, it's the countdown to pulling out of the gate, and your heart's pounding, and you're just trying to keep your cool and trying to keep those positive things in your mind, where it's really easy to let your mind get away from you right there. So that's when I'm trying to use that visualization and self-talk to distract me from actually pulling out of the gate. At that time, I try and trick myself that I'm not really even in a race and use all that positive stuff to distract me from what is actually about to happen.
I like it. I like it. Always, yeah, tricking the brain. That's anything you can do to, flip that switch. But I also liked I liked what you said as well before. Like, it's always nice to visualize, the positive run. But where this might fall in your routine, I guess, is different for everyone. But to know that, mistakes are made, things happen, to, whether it's visualization, whether it's just, calming yourself, to go through maybe some scenarios where, okay, well, what if my turn isn't quite as good as I want it to be? Well, now I'm in not such a good situation. How do I rebound back? And you kind of talked a little bit about that, but talk about the importance of some of the mistakes that might be made in order to get yourself back on track into that zone, that nice flow state.
Right. So yeah, with my sport therapist especially, we talk about So what happens if we do all this positive self-talk, you're all prepared for the race, and then something happens, you crash, you make a mistake? How do you bounce back from that in a positive way? And for me, it's really bringing it back to fun. Like it all has to come back to fun. At some degree, everyone's doing something because they enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, especially sport, there's not really a reason for you to be there. So when I think about not having a great run in a course, I bring it back to that and find where the motivation, where the positivity comes back to. And for me, it's fun. So I try and take all the pressure off. I think I've done everything I can to prepare for these races. I've worked hard. I'm doing all of the mental prep I can, all of the physical prep. And if things still don't turn out the way they should have, then I kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture and think, I'm all over the world snowboarding and getting paid to snowboard. And whether this race turned out how I wanted it to or not, I'm having the time of my life being out here. And I did the best I could, and we're gonna build on those lessons, but I'm not gonna beat myself up over what happened because I was as prepared as I could be. And at the end of the day, it's such an amazing experience, and it's such an honor to be able to be out there riding for Canada that I gotta put it in perspective and be like, you know what, it's still a great day to walk away from, even if a big mistake was made on the course.
And I think this is like a common theme that gets brought up with athletes, and it's just, yeah, fun, enjoyment. I always bring it back to my performance engine, mental, physical, you drop into, fun, enjoying what you do, acceptance, accepting the outcome, accepting that this isn't going to be easy, but it's going to get me to the next level, to what I call enthusiasm, where we're setting goals, small short-term goals, stepping stone goals, big goals, dreams, to accomplish the task at hand, whether it's, the gold medal or, just having an experience. Yes, it wasn't the best, but we had an experience, and that's going to make us better athletes, better people in the end. And I think this just kind of hones into what you're saying, being present, being in the moment, and that's where you feel good. This is a great segue into kind of goal setting. With Paralympian, Olympian athletes, we all know it's the process of 4 years, which I think it just takes a special individual and to set goals with regards to such long-term, 4 years, and breaking them down. Some of the discussions I've had with other athletes, we kind of talk about on my performance engine enthusiasm when you set a goal. So maybe if you might be able to relate, or maybe talk to athletes that come across this, where you set that 4-year goal. I want to reach the Olympics. I want to win a gold medal, but you get so fixated on that long-term goal that it almost becomes detrimental to you throughout the process, because you're now not living in the present moment and seeing the little obstacles, the little outcomes that you are making or maybe not making, because you're so fixated on the long-term goal at hand, especially 4 years away, where a lot of athletes, realize they're struggling because they're looking too far ahead. Although it's important to set that goal, we have to start breaking them down. So my question is, how do you break down those goals, and how do you not get too fixated on that big dream, that big moment, which is so important, but we don't want to lose sight of the day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year goals?
For sure. So yeah, you're right. Like fixating on that 4-year goal can be really intimidating. With me being so new to the competitive team as well, it was a big intimidating goal to look at, trying to make the Paralympic team. So it was really important to break it down into small steps that yeah, we could celebrate little victories. And I had a lot of little steps to go to get to the Paralympic Games. And my coaches were really supportive as well. They also realized that we need to break this down small for Lisa so that she can have a lot of successes, so we can try and get there. So we did. We really broke things down into steps, and sometimes even those goals maybe we'd start working on them and those weren't achievable. So we would break them down even smaller so that we would stay enthusiastic about it and we would have those successes to celebrate. And it's really important, I think, to have achievable goals that you can have success with. And that's the only way for me to stay positive and want to work towards that 4-year goal for sure.
And I think it's a good point that you made. And I always say to some of the athletes, we never fail or not achieve a goal. Sometimes we've just misplaced it on our timeline where, we set, after a month, I want to do this, or I want to have this time, and then you don't achieve it. Well, maybe it wasn't maybe a month was too short. Maybe you got to should have give yourself 2 or 3 months. And I find that you got to be careful you don't get too hard on yourself with maybe not necessarily achieving that. It was just misplaced on what I call your timeline. And a lot of times, yeah, you achieve a goal maybe a little later down the road, and you realize, I can check this one off, but I just didn't place it quite where it was supposed to be. So it's not I failed or I didn't accomplish it. It was just reevaluate, like you said, we make sure it's attainable and reevaluate some of these goals. And as professional athletes, injuries get in the way, outside stuff, whether it's family, other social things can, prolong some of these goals and when they're supposed to happen. So I think it's very important, like you said, to just be aware of when you're setting the goals and how you're setting them. That's very important, I think, as a high performance athlete. I want to get right into it now. The big day. I know it seems like you were itching for so many years to get on the Paralympic snowboarding team, and all the blood, sweat, and tears, and now the team, you're accepted, and the big stage is there for you to take. So just walk me through from however you want to do it, from beginning to end, some emotions, feelings, all I call them all the feel good stuff. Bring us into your world for that day, that week, however it worked out for you.
For sure. So it was absolutely crazy actually being able to go. I had to keep pinching myself because it didn't feel real that I was actually at the Paralympics in China, especially with COVID and everything. It felt like we were pretty privileged to be able to travel and be over there with so much going on in the world, and that really put things into perspective for us and kind of brought everybody together, just one humanity. And I mean, that's kind of what the games are for, is to bring the world together, to leave politics and everything aside. And I think we really felt that this year with everything going on, and it just made everyone want to try harder and do their best, and everyone to show the world, I guess, what we can do. So it was a really neat experience being there. And going into it, I felt really strong, but I had been racing the girls I was up against all season, so I kind of knew where I was generally sitting. Anything can happen, but there's usually somewhat of a order to things. And with that order, I didn't think I would be medaling. So I kind of set like attainable goals for myself of where I hoped to be and something that I felt like I would be able to do. And for me, that was hoping to be in the top 5, maybe 4 riders there. So the snowboard cross race, when I made it to the final round and I was top 4 and there was the last 4 of us to race down the course, I was just like, this is just a fun run now.
Yeah,
like I've exceeded my goals. These are the strongest women in the world. I've never beat any of them. So I'm going to go out there and think I'm riding one of the best snowboard courses made. I'm in China. I'm at the Paralympics. All my family and friends are watching back home. And I'm just going to go out and enjoy the course. And I think I went into such a flow state, and I took all the pressure off myself, that I rode better than I've ever ridden before. And when I crossed the finish line in second, I was in shock. Like I had to look back and I'm like, no, there's no way I did that. And then watching the videos on replay, going around the first turn, me and another girl actually make contact when I'm blocking her on a turn. And I normally if I kind of knew that was coming, it would have intimidated me and I probably would have kind of backed off because that's where some pretty gnarly crashes can happen. And I was so in my zone and so focused on my line and what I was doing to make my perfect run that I don't even remember that. Like I was in such tunnel vision of what I needed to do. It was the perfect run, and it's definitely like that true pure flow that people talk about where you are just totally in the moment. Like my thinking brain was totally shut off. My body and brain were just on autopilot. They knew what I needed to do, and I was just out there enjoying it. And it was just such an amazing experience.
Oh my goodness, I can't. It's you pretty much summed up this magical state of what we call flow and in one run. And that's why I like talking to you guys as athletes, because you don't know this as a spectator watching. You're just seeing you go down the hill, in your case, zigzagging and stuff where you don't really know where your head's at. And like you said, you didn't expect to be in the top uh, three or four, and now you're there, and how everything just kind of disappeared. Uh, to sometimes athletes have injuries and you have no idea, and then they overcome them, and it's these stories why I like doing this and talking to athletes, because they come to light, um, and just so inspirational to hear. But like flow state, it's just a topic I love talking about, and you basically like summed it up into a nice gift and put a bow on it with regards to everything just disappearing, living in the moment, no pressure, feeling free. Like I'm jealous. But what a great experience that must have been for you and your family. And yeah, give me a little bit of a lowdown on, maybe when you called your family or you're on video with them, and the emotions that they maybe had for you.
Yeah, so as soon as I passed the finish line, it was all being recorded live, so I was able to wave and say hi to all my family and friends. And then it actually happened to be at like 8:30 p.m. like Alberta time when I was racing in China, so it was really awesome. So as soon as I finished the race and went through all the formalities and talked to all the media, I was able to call my family and friends and just, yeah, the energy and to be able to talk to them. And it's like, we did it. It was so amazing, especially there wasn't spectators in China. So to be able to make that phone call and the fact that they were watching it happen live too, it was the neatest experience to live with them.
Oh, that's truly amazing. I like how you embraced, yes, there's no fans, but to make that phone call, to get that connection, very important. And as if they were probably there watching you the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Um, so with all the magic that goes in the Olympics, I always like to ask my athletes, like, representing Canada, putting on anything with the maple leaf is very special. As any individual, whether doesn't matter what sport it is. And talk to me about that, because that's just a special moment. Like you said, whether you get a gold medal, whether you don't, to represent your country is an accomplishment in itself. You can't take that away from any Olympian. So yeah, talk to me about putting on that Olympic jersey or that Canadian jersey, and how you feel representing yourself, your friends, your family, your nation, all the above.
Yeah, it's a huge deal putting on that jersey, and it's such a privilege, and I hope the feeling never goes away. Like I'm just in awe every time I get to put that jersey on. It's like this is really happening, and it is. It's so amazing to be able to represent Canada and to hopefully be an inspiration to kids out there as well, especially kids with disability, to see us going out there and crushing it, and to see how strong we are and how confident we are. And it's so important for kids to see that because um, I didn't have a whole lot of that growing up until I was in my 20s because, well, partially because social media wasn't such a big thing then, but that would have been a game changer for me in a lot of areas to see other people out there doing these things and knowing that all of this was out there as well. So I really hope that it's also making a difference to have that platform and riding for Canada that we're also giving back as well.
100%. I think you said it right, especially just a little bit in the beginning there, bringing nations together, overcoming what is going on in the world. I would say, the power sport community and how it brings everyone together. And, you know, you don't necessarily have to be a snowboarder or be an amputee to get inspiration from you guys as well. It can come from all over, and it might just be somebody just having a not such a good day to see you compete, to hear you talk, to give them a little bit of a boost. And then as well as just touching on what you said, like giving kids, young adults, to know that, you know, you Paralympians, the confidence you guys have and the things you can do, anything is possible if you put your mind to it. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing it. So to see you guys live on the television, also through media, whether it's podcasts, interviews, I think, yeah, it's very important. And I'm glad we have these outlets now that you guys can shed your light to those who are listening, watching, dreaming of one day becoming an Olympian, a Paralympian, you know, just a good person overall, right? So I'm truly inspired by your story, and I hope others that are going to listen can get snippets from it, whether it's some of the mindset stuff, some of the family stuff. You've shed a light on a lot of different components of, like we were talking, our balance board, that I hope people are inspired and can take away, because it's truly, people need to hear it, you know? So I just want to thank you, Elisa, for coming on and sharing a little bit of your story, and let the story continue to make more memories, setting new goals, new chapters in your career, snowboarding, family, and whatever else to come.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.